President Mahama assures transparent recruitment as 12,000 people join Ghana Armed Forces over the next 3 years. ECOWAS court orders Ghana to amend defense in former Chief Justice Tukonu's removal case. Security tightens up as 22,000 delegates vote tomorrow at the MPP presidential primaries. CAF sanctions Senegal and Morocco over disciplinary breaches in AFCON 2025 finals. And Niger's military leader accuses France, Benin, and Cote d'Ivoire of backing attack on Air Force Base. Good evening. A pleasure to have you this evening on GBC and GTV News. My name is Mavis Ofe-Champon. The next 1 hour, we're going to give you stories from the local front, foreign entertainment, and some sports. We take off from the presidency, where President John Mahama has given the assurance that only qualified persons will be recruited into the Ghana Armed Forces. He said 12,000 candidates are expected to be recruited nationwide in the next 3 years. At the Ghana Military Academy graduation parade in Accra for regular career course 64 and special duties course 62 of 256 new officers, the president said transparency, fairness, and merit will guide the process of selection.
I assure you that transparency, fairness, and merit will continue to guide the selection of personnel for peace support operations, ensuring that only the most qualified represent our nation abroad. Over the next 3 years, approximately 12,000 new personnel will be recruited nationwide, supported by the establishment of forward operating bases in strategic border areas. These initiatives reflect our unwavering commitment to a professional, resilient, and well-equipped armed forces. As we celebrate our graduating cadets, we do so against the backdrop of Ghana's proud legacy in international peace support operations. Since 1960, when Ghana first participated in a UN mission in the Republic of Congo, our nation has remained steadfast in its commitment to global peace and security. Today, Ghana is among the leading troop contributing countries to the United Nations peacekeeping missions. Our men and women serve with distinction in 15 missions worldwide, under the United Nations, the African Union, and the ECOWAS. From Lebanon to South Sudan, and from Abyei to Somalia, Ghanaian peacekeepers continue to earn global respect for their professionalism, discipline, and respect for human dignity. To our graduating cadets, you inherit this proud tradition. Uphold it with honor, courage, and integrity.
At the commissioning of the 256 officers cadets into the Ghana Armed Forces, President Mahama called on them to uphold the military proud record in safeguarding internal security and supporting regional and international peacekeeping missions. The president also urged all citizens to remain security conscious, emphasizing that public vigilance is key to complementing the efforts and sacrifices of Ghana's security services in the fight against terrorism.
The 256 officer cadets drawn from diverse backgrounds across the country successfully completed rigorous training designed to test their physical endurance, leadership skills, and strategic capabilities. Their commissioning marks the culmination of months of intensive preparation, instilling in them the discipline, courage, and professionalism expected of Ghana's future military leaders. As they took their oath, the cadets were entrusted with the responsibility of upholding the Ghana Armed Forces' proud legacy, serving both the nation and the international community in peacekeeping operations and protecting Ghana's democracy at all times. President Mahama highlighted growing security challenges in the sub-region, urging regional cooperation to combat threats and maintain stability.
The security environment in our sub-region remains complicated and volatile. Violent extremism, terrorism, and transnational crime continue to pose serious threats particularly along our northern border. Globally, the rise of non-state actors and asymmetric warfare has reshaped the nature of security challenges. These realities demand a comprehensive and coordinated national response. Security cannot be seen as the sole responsibility of the armed forces and security agencies. It is a shared national duty. Citizens, communities, traditional authorities, civil society, and government must work together to protect the peace and stability we all so cherish. I therefore urge all Ghanaians to remain vigilant and security conscious in safeguarding our nation's peace.
The president also expressed concern over the security situation in Boko, calling for strengthened peace efforts.
As we celebrate today, we remain mindful of conflicts in Boko, Biniyiri, Nkwanta, and other places, which have disrupted lives and livelihoods. The government has increased security presence, facilitated mediation among traditional leaders and stakeholders, also provided humanitarian assistance, and initiated long-term development interventions to address the root causes. To our soon-to-be commissioned officers, your duty extends beyond combat readiness. You are guardians of peace, justice, and national unity. Serve with courage, humility, and professionalism.
On the fight against illegal mining, President Mahama said the government remains resolute in tackling the menace, citing some successes already achieved.
Forests and river bodies have been declared security zones. Permanent military bases have been established, and offenders have been arrested and are being prosecuted. Rivers such as the Pra, Ankobra, and Ofin are gradually recovering. Let me be clear. Illegal mining will continue to be confronted decisively and without fear or favor. But this fight requires national unity. It is a moral, civic, and generational duty. And I call on all Ghanaians to stand together to restore and protect our land.
The Sword of Honor, which is awarded to the overall best officer cadet, went to Senior Under Officer Ejari Peter Selom, recognizing his exceptional performance during the training.
President John Mahama has commissioned the Akweteman Central Mosque in the Okaikwe Central Constituency in the Greater Accra region. This reaffirms his commitment to religious freedom, national unity, and inclusive development. President Mahama noted that the mosque will serve not only as a place of worship, but also as a hub for community engagement, moral guidance, and social cohesion.
The commissioning of the newly constructed two-story Akweteman Central Mosque brought together the National Chief Imam, His Eminence Dr. Sheikh Musharubutu, Muslim clerics, Christian leaders, traditional authorities, government officials, and residents, reflecting the spirit of unity and interfaith cooperation in the Okaikwe North municipality. For the Muslim community in Okaikwe North, the commissioning of the Akweteman Central Mosque is a fulfillment of a decade-long prayer. Residents say their hopes for a modern place of worship have finally been answered, a promise President John Mahama made during his election.
May Ladabi, may Ankuri, may Tausay, may Tikal Kawali, may Rika Amana.
President Mahama described the mosque as more than a place of worship.
Pray that anybody who comes into this mosque to pray, may Allah listen and respond to the person's prayers. And that may this mosque be a blessing to all the people of Akweteman and anybody from far and wide who comes here to come and pray in it.
President John Mahama also acknowledged the contributions of the traditional authorities, opinion leaders, and residents in fostering peaceful coexistence.
We hope that it will continue to be a symbol of the peaceful coexistence that exists between the religions in our country. Today, as we are commissioning the mosque, our brother Osofo is here with us. You can't find this. In other African countries, you won't find something like this. But Ghana is unique. We all worship together. We are all together, Muslims, Christians, African traditional religions. And I pray that God will continue to bless us to continue this peace work.
President Mahama reiterated his government's commitment to supporting faith-based institutions, highlighting their role in moral guidance, social development, and community support.
The 2026 Africa Trade Summit has ended in Accra, and speaking at the event, the Vice President, Professor Nana Jenopoko Ajimine, called for accountability and real results in Africa's push for economic integration. The President of Sao Tome and Principe, Carlos Villanova, also lent high-level support to the discussions.
The Africa Trade Summit 2026 climaxed in Accra on Thursday, January 29, 2026, with the graduation of the 2025 cohort of the African Trade Chamber's Future Trade Leaders Fellowship, which coincided with the Africa Trade Awards Gala. The event celebrated a new generation of African trade professionals trained to deepen regional integration, strengthen value chains, and advance intra-African trade under the African Continental Free Trade Area. It also featured the conferral of the Africa Trade Awards, recognizing individuals and institutions for outstanding contributions to trade, industrialization, and economic transformation across the continent. Ghana's Vice President, Professor Nana Jenopoko Ajimine, stressed that Africa's integration agenda must move beyond declarations to delivery, noting that success must be reflected in faster, predictable, and cost-effective trade systems supported by trusted institutions.
The momentum we have seen across the continent reflects effort, coordination, and leadership. To sustain that momentum, we must continue to invest deliberately in some interconnected areas, including the following. First, intra-African trade. Second, an industrial policy that supports priority sectors, builds skills, and embraces sustainable production. Third, infrastructure and connectivity. Fourth, innovation and technology. And finally, institutional capacity and governance, without which no reform can endure.
She said Africa's future would be measured by timely completed projects and competitive businesses. The closing ceremony was also attended by the President of Sao Tome and Principe, Carlos Villanova, who echoed the call for discipline and coordination in translating Africa's trade vision into results.
Across our continent, ports stand as symbols of progress. Railways are launched with pride. Power plants are commissioned with ceremony. And yet, factories still struggle to compete. Farmers still lose value between production and market. And traders still wait at borders longer than they move on highways. This is not because Africa lacks infrastructure. It is because too often we have treated infrastructure as an object to be built rather than a system to be made to work.
The two-day summit, themed around financing industrialization and market integration, wrapped up with renewed calls for political commitment, institutional strengthening, and measurable economic outcomes across the continent. Rachel Quarty, GBC News, Accra.
Away from the presidency, the ECOWAS Community Court has given the government of Ghana 30 days to file an amended statement of defense in the case on the removal of the former Chief Justice Tokonu. This comes after the court granted former Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu's application to amend her statement of claim to include her removal from office despite Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Sirim Sai's opposition. Lawyers for former Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu argued that at the time they filed their statement of case, Justice Tokonu was on suspension. However, she was later dismissed as Chief Justice and a Justice of the Supreme Court. Following the development, lawyer Femi Falana said it was necessary to amend their earlier statement of claim to reflect the development. The Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Srimsai, argued that the application stemmed from the allegations of human rights violations on her suspension and removal from office. She was removed from office on September 1, 2025 by President John Mahama after a 5-member committee set up to probe 3 petitions against her said grounds of stated misbehavior in office was established and recommended her removal. We now move to the Bono East region that is ahead of tomorrow's New Patriotic Party's presidential primaries. Police have tightened security, but in the Bono, tens of thousands of delegates are set to make their voices heard as the party holds the primaries, highly anticipated elections. In the Bono region, a little over 8,000 delegates are expected to cast their votes. Correspondent Samuel Ayama tells us more.
The Electoral Commission has expressed satisfaction with arrangements put in place, with officials working tirelessly to guarantee a credible outcome.
Everything has been handed over to Electoral Commission, so we are in full charge of the conduct of the election. No party executive, no election committee again. So we are going to handle it the way we have been handling normal elections.
To maintain peace and order, the Regional Police Command will deploy about 75 personnel to the 12 polling stations in the region, with a standby team on high alert. This robust security presence, according to the Deputy Bono East Regional Police Commander, ACP Stephen Buadu, is aimed at preventing any untoward incidents and ensuring that delegates can cast their ballots without fear or intimidation.
We have 11 constituencies. We deployed 825 personnel across board. We have 75 for every polling station. Outside is also made provision for rapid response to take care of any issue that may crop up in the course of the voting.
The party's leadership has echoed calls for calm, urging supporters to shun violent behavior and respect the democratic process.
Measures have been put in place to contain the 8,000 or so delegates who will be voting on that day.
As the countdown to the election continues, all eyes are on the NPP electoral process, with Ghanaians eager to see how the party navigates this critical juncture in its history. Samuel Ayama, GBC News, Bono East.
Still on the NPP's presidential primaries, which comes off tomorrow, we move to the eastern and the western region. So in the western region, police 72 officers will be deployed to each constituency to ensure law and order, while in the eastern region, over 22,000 delegates are expected to cast their ballot across 36 centers with no proxy voting permitted. Authorities and party officials are calling for cooperation to guarantee a peaceful and incident-free exercise.
In the Western region, 14,132 delegates are expected to vote across 21 polling stations. The Western Regional Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Mr. Oketechie Amankwa Efrifa, said the region is well prepared for the election come January 31.
The guidelines are very clear. The election has been given to the Electoral Commission, and security is the Ghana Police Service, and it is a walk-in, vote and go exercise.
The acting Western Regional Director of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Joshua Ofori Pepra, said the commission is well prepared for a smooth and peaceful process, but cautioned delegates from disrupting their work. DCOP Frank Abrakwa is the Western Regional Police Commander.
What we expect is that the delegates who are coming, as well as officials, comply with the electoral laws of the country, as well as the regulations of their own party.
In the Eastern region, more than 22,000 delegates will vote in the primary at 36 centers. According to the party's regional secretary, Mr. Osei Jay, proxy voting will not be permitted.
We are advising the delegates that they should have peace and I have confidence in the system that come Saturday, Eastern region, we are going to record incident-free and fair election that whoever they believe in, they can walk in to cast their ballot for the person, and it will be counted accordingly.
Voting is scheduled to begin at 7 a.m. and close at 2 p.m.
But back here in Accra, campaign spokesperson for Dr. Brian Echampo, Mr. Pius Hajide, has called for leadership anchored in faith, discipline, and a clear sense of purpose as they prepare for the presidential primaries tomorrow. He was speaking at a political engagement dubbed Brian Speaks.
The map is clear. This year is for unity and rebuilding. Next year is for readiness. The election year is for victory. To our dear delegates, the delegates of the New Patriotic Party, your decision carries weight beyond Saturday. You are choosing not just a candidate, but a direction. Courage or caution. Unity or fragmentation. Preparedness or uncertainty. We trust in you, and we know that you shall choose wisely. To the people of Ghana, we say this: our nation deserves leadership that listens, acts decisively, and unites differences into strength. This campaign believes Dr. Brian Acheampong is prepared to serve with integrity, firmness, and humility. On Saturday, 31st January, we respectfully ask for your support. Vote number 2. Together, we will rebuild the party. Together, we will restore confidence. Together, we will win in 2028.
Away from the presidential primaries, you're looking at some funding models for GBC. So when President John Mahama recently visited the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, he expressed his intention to replace the current TV license fee model with an alternative funding system for the public broadcaster. So the Public Media Alliance welcomed the move and pledged to work with government on developing a model that safeguards GBC's independence and ensure its long-term sustainability. In an earlier interview with GBC News, the Alliance Head of Content and Engagement, Mr. Harry Locke, shared his perspective. Here are some excerpts.
When it comes to the model that is then landed upon, there are 3 main things that we would urge the government and the relevant ministers to really consider. The first thing is that the funding allocation and collection method, so the way in which the funds are collected off citizens and given to the public broadcaster, that they are protected from any government interference and threats. This happens around the world. We see it across different continents as well. And it is really essential that that funding model is protected from government interference. The second thing is that it's long-term. This is a pretty difficult time for the media industry, for public broadcasters to ensure that they're maintaining relevance. And we think that it's really essential that funding is long-term, which then means that public media can have sustainable levels of funding. They can continue to provide those services that audiences need and expect, and as a way that then gives them the strength to be able to adapt to changing media environments. And finally, we also would urge that there is some provision to consistently increase the level of funding that public broadcasters receive to ensure that the income doesn't stagnate and they're left behind as inflation inevitably happens.
Ghana joined the international community to commemorate the International Holocaust Remembrance Day 2026. Young people, including students, were invited to the event and were sensitized on the need for tolerance and peaceful coexistence. 6 million Jews were massacred by Nazi Germany and its collaborators during the World War II, purely out of racism and hatred.
The solemn ceremony held in Accra honored the memory of 6 million Jews and some others who also perished during the Holocaust. Various speakers at the event said remembering the Holocaust goes beyond history, as it serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of hatred, discrimination, and the denial of human rights.
This means responsibility must now be shared more broadly. Middle powers like Germany have a special role to play, and I believe Ghana is a middle power in this sense as well. Not by waiting for others, but by acting, and acting together.
A symbolic candle lighting ceremony and moments of silence were observed in remembrance of the victims, while educational presentations highlighted the importance of tolerance, inclusion, and respect for diversity in modern societies. Diplomats and human rights advocates used the occasion to call for renewed commitment to preventing genocide, promoting peaceful coexistence, and standing firmly against anti-Semitism and all forms of intolerance. Students present at the ceremony described the commemoration as a meaningful learning experience. They were encouraged to become ambassadors for peace and human rights.
We go for a quick break. Do stay.
Natural mosquito repellent. Highly recommended by Ministry of Health, CHAS and GES. Lab tested by Noguchi Medical. Field trialed by Atomic Energy Commission. It has no chemical or side effects and is good for all ages and skin type. MedShea is available nationwide. Contact us on 0244892413. This advert is approved by FDA.
Sabrea yani 2025 baby. Na ya bie ensem e de 2026. High sense was here for America crazy. Na ya dagana fo nyina se. Ye nimpa se gidi a wanya we mu na oni edi dwa no. Eno na aboa ma high sense ye do some peppenso. Se wo hu de enko ya obo ya mane. Onu kredie. Eni se mo boy ye chidom. Ahye ye nkran ama ye hihye niema kama e de brem. Technology de brem afi no. We tribe bom. Ye customer service no so. Ya show mu kutufa. Ye ye a check ane no. Afi ye mu say about the quality home appliances and electronics are high sense chino. Moko be. Anyway, 2026, I am no meaning in Afi. I am the Bayan Niaman was so our high sense. High sense. Everyday prices for everyday people.
Maswana pana chale ma Jimmy Mixi. Ejina bontin na me feel frisky. We from me na my fan part chale lesi. Mixi chane hot. And mommy feel good in asa so ye testy. Me num no studio am ko oski. Choko no me tia no me name bestie. Mixi chane hot. It's sweet oh. Great new taste for the inside. No more banu ahu. Ya ka when hot water pet. Mixi chane hot. Ide bi yo. Chroma is into the guy. No more banu ahu. Eba pesta jai. Ibije. Masa chano mixi yo. Mixi. Great new taste there, mixi choco, mixi coffee, ninyina ube fili. Mixi. Great new taste there, mixi choco, mixi coffee. FDA aje edwedie.
Thanks for staying on. Still watching news coming to you live from our studios here in Accra. We do some business stories where government is targeting 18 million live bird production this year under the Nkoko Nkete initiative. That's the poultry component of the Feed Ghana program. The initiative is expected to boost local production, poultry production, create jobs, and strengthen food security. The full complement of the program is expected to take off later this year after the pilots were started 4 months ago.
Government intensifies efforts to revamp Ghana's poultry industry and cut down on chicken imports. Stakeholders within the agriculture sector and personnel from Ministry of Special Initiatives visited Aglo Farms, one of the chicken processing companies selected for the poultry component of the Feed Ghana program. Speaking to the press after a tour of the facility, the National Coordinator for National Broilers Directorate under the Ministry of Special Initiatives, Mr. Kelvin Okran, expressed satisfaction over the company's gain over a short period as he envisages that full commercialization of the program will increase the locally produced chicken on the Ghanaian market.
We have two legs of the Akuko Kitten program. We have the commercial bit and we have the other social intervention aspect of it, for which the Agric Ministry is looking to get interested parties. I mean, the chicken that is given to these households and individuals to grow, the intent is to get them interested and then for them to understand the commercial viability of it, for which after that they are rolled on to our program, for which we do a minimum of about 20,000 birds for production, and then a maximum of about 200,000 birds as of now.
The Executive Director of Aglo Farms, Nana Boache, emphasized that the program will increase the staff strength above 200 as the company is taking steps to enroll on the government's 24-hour economy initiative.
Currently, we're doing almost about 1.5 million birds on our own. We're currently running one shift, and with the help, we are at the age of 24-hour economy. So hopefully, this program will enable us to run 3 shifts to be able to triple our employment work base.
The ministry clarified that there are financial institutions on board to offer financial support to farmers who will be engaging in the commercialization stage of the program should the need arise.
The Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry has welcomed the recent decision by the Bank of Ghana to further reduce the Monetary Policy Committee's rate from 18% to 15.5%. The sustained reduction in the MPC rate, according to the GNCCI, is a positive and timely policy intervention which will further support business recovery and reinforce private sector-led growth.
The policy rate has declined over the period from February last year to January this year, reflecting improving macroeconomic conditions and a gradual easing of monetary tightness. According to the GNCCI, this has been as a result of improved coordination between monetary and fiscal measures. The GNCCI thus has commended the Government of Ghana, the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana for the prudent macroeconomic management of the economy. The Chamber has therefore encouraged the Bank of Ghana to continue with efforts towards reducing the policy rates further. The Chamber also expressed concern on the commercial bank lending rates, which remains relatively high despite the significant reductions in the policy rate. The non-interest cost components and the bank-specific charges, including bank-specific risk premiums, operating costs, profit margins, processing and arrangement fees, commitment charges, among others, continue to account for an additional margin of roughly 4 to 5% on the policy rate, hiking further the cost of credit for businesses. This level of financing cost is high for both large businesses and SMEs. The GNCCI also called on commercial banks to complement the actions of the BOG by reducing non-interest charges. The Chamber further encouraged banks to leverage risk-sharing mechanisms and credit enhancement framework to reduce lending risk and lower borrowing costs. The GNCCI noted that a more responsive transmission of monetary easing to borrowers will support sustainable credit expansion, reduce non-performing loans, boost investment in productive sectors, and reinforce private sector-led economic growth. According to the GNCCI, it remains committed to constructive engagement with monetary authorities, financial institutions, and policymakers to foster an enabling business environment that promotes competitiveness, job creation, and long-term economic resilience.
The Venture Capital Trust Fund, in partnership with the Flat 6 Labs Africa, has launched a 2-day boot camp to equip startups with strategy, governance, and investment-ready skills.
Many tech startups launch with big ideas but struggle to survive without strong strategy and governance. With findings from IFC, the bootcamp is aimed at preparing Ghanaian tech founders for sustainable growth. The Director of Global Partnership at Flat 6 Labs Africa, Fatin AC, urged founders to fully take advantage of the program, noting that well-structured startups are better positioned to create jobs and contribute meaningfully to Ghana's economy.
Within this initiative, we create a series of boot camps, investment readiness boot camps, where we support entrepreneurs understand the position of investors and what they are looking for.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Venture Capital Trust Fund, Mr. Mike Labby, stressed that while funding is critical for startup growth, it must be supported by clear strategy and strong governance. According to him, without these foundations, even promising startups risk failure.
Relative to the review of our enabling law, the Act 680, the Venture Capital Trust Fund, and one of the objectives is to see how best we leverage the vast opportunities that exist within the African Continental Free Trade Area, where huge market is available for our businesses, our SMEs, and we believe that when we are able to fix the legal regime, together with the practical support that we can offer through technical assistance to our founders and techpreneurs, they should be able to scale and, of course, access other markets way beyond Ghana's reach.
Founded in 2004, the Venture Capital Trust Fund aims to build a well-structured venture capital industry by providing credit and equity financing to eligible venture capital firms to support small and medium-scale enterprises.
In the Northern region, MasterCard Foundation has joined hands with Design Technology Institute to shaping the skills of about 200 young people. It is aimed at empowering them to tackle unemployment, and trainees were educated on entrepreneurship and how to sustain their businesses even in times of crisis.
Youth unemployment continues to pose a major challenge, partly due to the gap between classroom learning and practical skills required by employers. This initiative seeks to bridge the gap by focusing on real-world training and applied learning. Courses offered under the program include welding and fabrication technology, catering and hospitality, software development, and fashion design fields, selected for their high demand and strong potential for self-employment and job creation. Speaking at the graduation ceremony held at the Dabokpa Technical Institute in Tamale, the principal, Mariama Mahama, commended the graduates for their dedication and resilience throughout the rigorous training period.
These learners were taken through some training and practical training in our school, but it did not end there. We also engaged our industry partners who opened their companies for us to have the further hands-on training in their facilities.
The General Manager of Ascents and Arts, Bernice Gavo, disclosed that the graduates will receive starter kits and seed capital to support them in establishing their own businesses as part of efforts to reduce unemployment.
From here, 44 of them would receive starter kits today, relevant to the skills they have been trained in. And then 5 of them will go into our entrepreneurship hub, where they will receive seed funding of $1,000 each, with the potential to scale up to $10,000 based on how they start up and manage their businesses. Also, 149 today have jobs secured for them, with the rest underway. This is what we are here to do.
One of the graduates, Abubakari Isahaku, described the training as life-changing and empowering.
We've come out with a project, and that is a multi-purpose wooden stove. We realized that most society, especially homes, schools, kebab vendors, they are used to open fire for frying, roasting of kebabs and frying of eggs. So with this, our multi-purpose wooden stove, it helps with the fry, which helps reduce health hazards and open flames problems.
Products made by the graduates were showcased at the ceremony, including clothing, metal stoves, metal doors, cakes, movable metal dustbin containers, and websites designed by trainees. Outstanding participants were also awarded cash prizes for innovation and excellence.
We now bring you the performance of the local currency on the forex market, the price of gold, cocoa, and light crude.
Enne mumu asesa mabrabo eni kana fonyina so abrabo kanino na enti sakro se wudi sikesie ana se utwen sika e wo lorry station na eye ahometse nenso enne momonti
Misaka pensions kano
Misaka order sika
Misaka
insurance no
Misaka loan.
Momo fogosuri ye ejumaden di aboye nyina ye sika ho ban se MTN ana momo jumaye ni be frewa or the 0244 300,000 ene be frew na numpo orimbi saw one time password ana se upin code enti wonso ye wa femu die na ma wani na ho na wonsa enka wo momo.
MedShay, natural mosquito repellent, highly recommended by Ministry of Health, CHAS and GES, lab tested by Noguchi Medical, field trialed by Atomic Energy Commission. It has no chemical or side effects and is good for all ages and skin type. MedShay is available nationwide. Contact us on 0244892413. This advert is approved by
On the energy segment of the news, the Institute for Energy Security, IES, says it expects players in the electricity subsector to further retool and be innovative in their operations to enhance electricity supply services this year and beyond. The IES also looks forward to the establishment of the proposed state-owned 1,000 megawatts thermal plant as captured in the 2026 budget. Senior research and policy analyst spoke with the Energy News.
I expect that the power sector will be more improved. That improved means that the lines or transformers that are of age will be changed within the shortest time. Then for grid co-improvement and the performances, they can also ensure continuous transmission of power. For the IPPs, I do not have much with them because now the government is trying to implement the Atuapo Gas Phase 2, where we'll be able to have enough gas supply to be able to power the thermal plants. One thing I look up for is that implementation of that 1,000 megawatts of thermal power plant that belongs to the government of Ghana. I think that will be a good step to be able to take or be an off-taker for the gas that will be generated from this our oil fields. I ensure that there will be massive investment in the upstream in terms of the energy sector, which is more or less the foundation for the performance of the economy, will be realized.
The Auditor General has directed the Petroleum Commission and Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, to impose statutory penalties on international oil companies, IOCs, which fail to pay surface rental fees on time. The Attorney General warns that persistent defaults are eroding petroleum revenues and exposing weaknesses in enforcement of the country's upstream fiscal regime.
These directives follows findings in the Auditor General's report on management of petroleum funds for the period January 1 to December 31, 2024, which shows that several operators delayed or defaulted on the mandatory surface rental payment into the Petroleum Holding Fund (PHF) despite clear legal timelines and penalty provisions under petroleum revenue laws. Under Regulation 5 of the Petroleum Revenue Management Regulations 2019 LI 2381, operators are required to self-assess surface rentals annually and pay amounts due into the PHF by February 28 of each year. The Auditor General noted that non-compliance with these requirements undermines credibility in petroleum revenue flows and weakens fiscal planning. The law provides for sanctions in cases of default. However, the report observed that these penalties have largely gone unenforced, reducing the deterrent effect intended by the law. It is based on these findings that the Auditor General charged the upstream regulator and the country's tax authority to move beyond administrative oversight and actively enforce penalties against defaulting companies to safeguard state revenues. According to the report, total estimated proceeds from surface rentals at the reporting period amounted to $3.46 million, made up of $721,585 for the 2024 financial year and $2 million in arrears from prior periods. Yet, only $520,711 was paid into the Petroleum Holding Fund, highlighting a widening gap between expected and realized revenues. As of December 31, 2024, the total amount due from surface rentals stood at $2.94 million, equivalent to 107.6% of estimated surface rental receipt for the 2023 financial year. In its report, the Auditor General urged the Petroleum Commission and GRA to intensify recovery efforts and ensure that all companies liable for surface rental payments comply with statutory timelines. It cautioned that continued non-enforcement risks normalizing late payment behavior and weakens fiscal discipline in the upstream sector.
Introduce to you Cancer Mixture, a herbal mixture for arthritic pain.
Arthritis,
It's me.
Cancer Mixture, no, Cancer Mixture, no, Cancer Mixture.
Yeruba Biarana no Drew, Morio ya, or arthritis, Cancer Mixture, or Benny Juma when you put your inside. I'm a pencil new grand.
And in Fidriana menu, on your market for any batana woman, one menu for. First, baby, I'm from one Sanka, singing Susan, Bonnie Biara, home doctor, and I report for FDA safety app no door.
And Katui, FDA.
You're still watching the news coming to you live from our studios here at the Broadcasting House. On the foreign and the health segment, the Akobana Chip compound, which was abandoned in 2016, has finally been completed, inaugurated, and handed over to the community and the Ilo Krobo Municipal Health Directorate. During the unveiling of the project, the Ilo Krobo MCE commended GBC's correspondent Michael Kenete for his instrumentality in the completion and inauguration of the project.
The project, which was commenced in 2016 during President John Mohammed's first administration, was left at the mercy of the weather, although it could have started operation as it had electricity, septic tank, washroom and logistics. GBC News' correspondent Michael Kofi Kenete, a citizen of the community, reported on the issue on many occasions, with regular follow-ups to the previous MCEs and the MP for Yilo Krobo, but all efforts fell on deaf ears. When the new MCE in the current administration, Mr. Francis Akumate, assumed office in May 2025, the GBC correspondent kept reaching out to him about the project with constant follow-ups. The project has now been completed and handed over to the community and the Yilo Krobo Municipal Health Directorate for use. During the inauguration, the MCE commended the correspondent for his advocacy towards the completion of the project. Mr. Ado Akumate emphasized that the completion and handing over of the facility showed the value that government placed on the welfare of the people.
There shouldn't be unnecessary interference at the facility. You know, facility or no appeal, we are bringing experts who know their way. But most of the time, some of us feel we know better than them. So we dictate to them whatever they should do. Sometimes it doesn't bring peace.
The Yilo Krobo Municipal Health Director, Mrs. Irina Ofei, noted that the establishment of the CHIPS compound served as a critical intervention, providing quality healthcare delivery and saving lives in the deprived communities. She mentioned that the facility would provide antenatal care, postnatal care, family planning, ease prevention, and health education. The Eastern Regional Minister, Mrs. Rita Awate, assured the community she would work with the Yilo Krobo MCE to help rehabilitate the main road leading to the community to help promote economic activities in the area. Mrs. Awate commended the MCE for judiciously using the 10% of their share of the District Assembly's Common Fund to improve health infrastructure in the municipality. The other health facilities inaugurated included the Aketebo CHIPS compound, Abua Osubonenya, and Abuabo CHIPS compounds.
On the foreign front, Niger's military leader has accused the president of France, Benin, and Ivory Coast for supporting armed groups that attacked an Air Force base in the capital yesterday, wounding 4 soldiers and damaging an aircraft. Reports say Nigerian forces responded quickly, killing 20 of the attackers and arresting 11 others. General Abdurrahman Chiani though has accused the presidents of the 3 countries for sponsoring the mercenaries. He did not provide any evidence to back up his accusation, but says they should wait for Niger's role. The sophisticated and boldness of the air attack in Niger, including the possible use of drones, suggests that the assailants may have had inside help. Earlier successful attacks elsewhere in the region appear to have increased the group's confidence, leading them to target more sensitive and strategically important sites. The Islamic State group on Friday claimed responsibility for an attack in Niger on an Air Force base in the capital that wounded 4 soldiers and damaged an aircraft. The claim of responsibility was contained in a statement on Amak News Agency, the group's propaganda wing, that said it was a surprise and coordinated attack that inflicted heavy losses. Since seizing power, Niger's military rulers, along with those in neighboring Mali and Burkina Faso, have cut ties with France and other Western powers and turned to Russia for military support to fight insurgency. The juntas also regularly accused the presidents of Benin and Ivory Coast, two West African countries that maintain close relations with France, of acting as proxies for Paris. Under the military juntas, Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso have seen a surge in attacks and have become more vulnerable to the armed groups. In sports, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has imposed a series of suspensions and financial penalties on Senegal and Morocco following disciplinary breaches during the Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco 2025 finals.
The disciplinary board said the sanctions were issued after incidents during and after the match were found to have violated the CAF disciplinary code, including principles of fair play and integrity. Senegal were handed the heaviest penalties. Head coach Papi Thiaw was suspended for 5 official CAF matches and fined $100,000 for unsporting conduct, with CAF stating that his actions brought the game into disrepute. 2 Senegalese players, Liam Chiki Ndiaye and Ismail Assar, were each suspended for 2 CAF matches for unsporting behavior towards the referee. The Senegalese Football Federation was also fined a total of $615,000. CAF cited the improper conduct of supporters, unsporting behavior by players and technical staff, and misconduct linked to the team receiving 5 yellow cards during the final. Morocco were also sanctioned following incidents involving players, officials, and supporters. Akraf Hakimi was suspended for 2 CAF matches, with one of those bans suspended for a year, whilst Ismail Siabiri received 3-match suspension and $100,000 fine for unsporting behavior. CAF fined the Royal Moroccan Football Federation $200,000 for the conduct of ball boys during the match, and a further $100,000 after players and officials were found to have invaded the VAR review area and obstructed the referee's work. An additional $15,000 fine was imposed for the use of lasers by Moroccan supporters inside the stadium. CAF also confirmed that a protest lodged by Morocco alleging regulatory violations by Senegal during the final had been rejected after the review. The governing body said the decisions underlined its commitment to upholding discipline, integrity, and respect for match officials at its competitions.
That is all by way of news. My name is Mavis Ofe Champon. Robert Frimpong Manson did the sign language for the news. Do join us at 10 for another news bulletin. But till then, enjoy the rest of our programs. Good evening.